Good morning, everyone. Just a little word of warning. Uh, oh, in today's talk, uh, I may be using the F word a little bit, not in a prurient way, but as an expletive in a couple places today. And so if you've got uh, people who are offended by that, turn the sound down, but you can see my beautiful visage if you want. Anyway, I gotta adjust my thing here, as we say in the OTO. And speaking of the OTO, uh, I'm going to be bold. I've been tempted to uh, pull this out uh, earlier in the year, but I thought, well, I say the F word so much in uh, this piece that it might be too vulgar for my morning reading. But uh, I don't think so. I don't think so. Anyway, this is an address, okay, a speech I wrote and delivered in 2005. So how many years ago is that? That's plenty of years ago. But 2005 at the Ordo Templi Orientis U.S. National Convention. And I entitled it Fraternal Heresy, Etiquette and Boundaries in a FU Organization. Now, admittedly, there's a great deal of special interest to members of and initiates of Ordo Templi Orientis. But it is really a generic talk to anyone who would who see themselves as magical individuals rather than normal, followers of an organization, a classic organization. So, keeping that in mind, I hope you would enjoy this. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. 2005 is a big year for OTO anniversaries. Last month we marked the date of the Greater Feast, that's death, the Greater Feast 20 years ago of our beloved Caliph Hymenaeus Alpha, Grady McMurtry. And next month we'll celebrate the 20th anniversary of the election of his successor, Hymenaeus Beta. On a more personal note, this coming November 15th, I will celebrate, or at least observe, my 30th anniversary as an initiate member of the OTO. That gives me the bittersweet distinction of being an active member of the OTO longer than any other living person. For a love gift of $3, you may rub my head for good luck. Oh, I wish you could hear the roars of laughter, or the boos, or the groans, or the hisses of the live audience. But it was fun. It was terribly fun. Please don't think I'm suggesting that my seniority is based at all upon spiritual virtue or magical prowess. In fact, it's merely the sad result of the deaths of 3 senior members whom I dearly loved, Grady McMurtry, Helen Parsons Smith, and Phyllis Seckler. These 3 people took their initiations in the days when the Grand Master Baphomet was still alive and trying to find out what the hell was going on at Agape Lodge. And that's kind of an in-joke because Agape Lodge in Hollywood was a source of substantial support to Crowley in his last years. A very generous uh, support of Crowley and his living circumstances. But it was also a wild and crazy Hollywood cult, if you would like to call it that. And Crowley, you know, obviously had wanted the OTO to have a good reputation and things like that, and he certainly didn't want everybody acting like they thought Crowley acted. So it's wild and crazy times, and it's been legendized and fableized and mythologicalized in the recent television series Strange Angel about Jack Parsons. So, and trying to find out what the hell was going on at Agape Lodge. Grady even received his 9th degree from Crowley himself. Phyllis and Grady gave me my Minerval. Helen, that's the 0 degrees in the OTO. Helen joined them, that's Helen Parsons Smith, joined them 6 months later to make me a man and a brother. That's the title of the 1st degree OTO. All in a tiny garage in Dublin, California. These were very intimate, almost cozy ceremonies that felt profoundly sacred and secret. Just 3 old adepts and 1 young fool. There was as yet no corporation, no governing bodies, no lodges, camps, or chapters, or temples, or buildings, or lawsuits, or publishing companies. The OTO was just a dream of what might become. A dream that Crowley put on paper, but never lived to see. 30 years doesn't seem like a long time at all. The 3 old veterans are now gone, and the young fool has become an old fool. An old fool who in his lifetime has seen much of that dream for the OTO to come true. We're all here today because of the vision and sacrifice of these 3 extraordinary individuals. So before I go any further, I think it profoundly appropriate we acknowledge their contribution to our order and Thelema. Won't you please stand and join with me in giving a grateful and Thelemic 353 round of applause to salute the memories of our brother Grady McMurtry and sisters Helen Parsons Smith and Phyllis Seckler. And we all rose from our seats and gave that clap, that Thelemic knock, battery of and everyone sat down, and I said, OTO lesson number 1, continue living. And keep that in mind. Sometimes it's hard. You'll notice that in the official Noticon program, my talk is called Etiquette and Boundaries in an F blank U organization. Before I begin, I'm going to share a little secret with you. The real title of my talk is actually Etiquette and Boundaries in a Fuck You organization. Now, I admit that sounds pretty vulgar. Helen and Phyllis would have been shocked. Grady would have loved it. But as most of you know, I'm a vulgar man. As vulgar as I am, however, I want to make it clear that when I refer to the OTO as a fuck you organization, I am in no way showing any disrespect to our beloved order, her leaders, or members. If you think that's what this talk is about, then I've got one thing to say to you. Fuck you. Now, let's talk about etiquette and boundaries. The OTO is a thelemic organization. To paraphrase DuQuette, the very term thelemic organization is an oxymoron, a collection of militant individuals all trying like hell to discover their true wills. Sounds like a recipe for chaos. And in many instances, it's precisely that. Yet Crowley was inspired by the thought of a new Aeon society that could merge the precepts of complete personal liberty with the necessities of self-imposed spiritual discipline. He designed the OTO to be a model of that society, a social organism that strives to balance the concepts of monarchy and democracy, aristocracy, egalitarianism, idealism, and pragmatism, philosophy and science, stability and revolution, etiquette and boundaries. Membership in the OTO requires each of us not only to survive, but to actually thrive within this paradox of liberty and discipline. This balance reflects the active-passive solar formula of the age itself, and that of the two-part crowned and conquering Lord of the Aeon, whom we adore. Allow me to get the phone. You can join me in this phone call. Hello. Hello. I think they realized that I was engaged, otherwise engaged. Okay, where were we? Membership in the OTO requires us each not only to survive, but actually to thrive within this paradox of liberty and discipline. The balance reflects, and this is good because I wanted to repeat this anyway, the balance between reflects the active, passive, solar formula of the age itself, and that of the two-part crowned and conquering Lord of the Aeon, whom we adore. Haru Raha is the unique name for the two opposite and equal forms of the Egyptian god Horus. Hur-Par-Krat is the passive, innocent god of silence and infinite potential, often portrayed as a baby curled in the fetal position, pressing a thumb or forefinger to his lips. His twin brother, Rahur-Kuit, or Rahur-Kut, is the active, violent, hawk-headed avenger of the gods. Combined under the one name, Haru-Raha, they are the alternating current of life itself, the divine expression of the passive, active dynamics of spirit. Now, before you Egyptologists out there remind us that you've never heard of Haru-Raha, you're probably right. Haru-Raha, as such, appears in the Book of the Law as the deity, the Egyptian deity, or the name for the Egyptian deity that is both of the Horus brothers together. The active Rahur-Kuit active and the passive Hur-Par-Krat lumped together into a single term, Haru-Raha, but it is unique to the Book of the Law. But I digress. As Thelemites, we identify with the sun. But why should the sun, the ultimate symbol of unity and singularity in our solar system, be identified with this double nature? From time immemorial, the doctrine of twin suns, has bubbled secretly in the sanctuaries of the mysteries. Ancient traditions speak of a twin of our sun, a cosmic double about which it and our entire solar system revolve in a dance of hundreds of millions of years. Early Gnostics dubbed Satan the twin of Christ, suggesting a great solar mystery is hidden in the relationship. Just look at the relationship of the characters Saul and Satan Typhon in Crowley's Rite of Saul. Ever wonder what that's really about? Whatever may have been the original circumstances and motives that created these ancient traditions, modern science affirms that the secret of life, the secret of the life of the sun, is indeed a perpetual balancing act between two immense forces: the active thermonuclear process that burns the sun's fuel, causing light and energy to radiate from the inside outward into space, and the passive gravitational presence of the sun's own mass. The former is the active centrifugal force that gives the sun its glowing identity, that bestows light and life to the universe, and the latter is the centripetal outside inward force that keeps the burning process perpetually contained and stable. These two forces, in perfect balance, make our Lord the Sun a star in the company of stars. These two forces, in perfect balance, help define the sun's will. So too, every man and every woman is a star. And each of us owes our existence and our unique place in the cosmos to our own ability to balance within ourselves the microcosmic reflections of these same titanic forces. Forces we worship in their Egyptian forms as the wild, loud, vengeful, active Ra-Hoor-Khut and his calm, silent, peaceful, passive brother Hur-Par-Krat. These two brothers need each other. For without the other's influence, each would self-destruct. I can just imagine what would happen if these guys got into an argument and split up. Ra-Hoor-Khut would just storm off screaming, "Fuck you!" And while Hur-Par-Krat yells back, well, he wouldn't yell back, but he'd be thinking, "I've got nothing to say to you." Hello. Yes, I'm doing my live show now on. I'm sorry. Someone's coming over in about half hour. I'll let you get back to it. I'll talk to you later. Okay, thanks a lot. All right, 93. Excuse me, but I digress. Okay. So I was imagining if the Horus brothers would break up, the Ra-Hoor-Khut would storm off saying, "Fuck you," and Hur-Par-Krat wouldn't be saying anything. If he said anything, he'd say, "I got nothing to say to you." Okay. Talk about spoiling a joke. In the OTO, and in life in general, in this aeon of Horus, the secret of success is to balance the two. To know when it's appropriate to put your finger to your lips and keep your mouth shut, and when it's appropriate to gouge that same finger into some idiot's eye and say, fuck you. Obviously, until we've achieved knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel, it's impossible for us to know for sure which, if any, course of action or behavior is appropriate in any given situation. But in matters that concern our lives in the OTO, we needn't flounder one moment in indecision, because we've been given a magical weapon that can instantly vaporize any doubt as to what we must do. It is our prime directive, and it states, "There is no law beyond do what thou wilt." So much confusion, so many problems and misunderstandings can be avoided if we simply remember the prime directive. Now, most fraternal or initiatory organizations require their members to swear an oath or a series of oaths by which he or she becomes honor bound to observe and obey the rules of behavior, or in more gentle terms, the etiquette and boundaries of the organization. Among the rules are invariably those that require respect and obedience to the persons and decisions of the organization's hierarchical chain of command. The OTO is no exception. If you perceive it to be your will to be part of the order, then you must be willing to treat the apparent restrictions your obligations place upon you as being facets and extensions of your will. It's not Orwellian at all. It simply means that no matter what the circumstances, you will somehow figure out how to continue doing your will, all the while observing the order's etiquette and boundaries. For many people, that's pretty easy, and they happily accept discipline and organization in order to become more efficient soldiers of freedom. For others, it's not so easy. In fact, I've known a few people who have convinced themselves that the order's structure or policies create an environment too restrictive to accommodate a free expression of their wills. Perhaps for some people that is true. I'm incapable of making that judgment for anybody else. I can only say that for me, the OTO's etiquette and boundaries are the least restrictive aspects of my life. Lon DuQuette is the biggest obstacle to Lon DuQuette doing his will. In fact, in times when the rest of my life collapses around me, when I've lost all structure, all direction, when my sinews are loosened and I sit numb and paralyzed in the dark night of the soul, when I've lost all other feeling, I can still count on the pain in my ass that is the OTO. And I say that with all love and respect. In the last 30 years, now it's well over 40 years, in the last 30 years I've taken all the oaths, and I've lived the OTO experience from Minerval to the Sovereign Sanctuary. It may come as a surprise to some of you and a comfort to others when I tell you that no initiation, no oath, no obligation, no ceremony, no ordeal, no doctrine or tradition, written or oral, has ever asked me to violate the prime directive. On the contrary, at every step of my OTO journey, I've been obliged to execute the prime directive. Be that as it may, the OTO is full of people, and people aren't perfect, people make mistakes, and people can be assholes. It's very likely that sooner or later you'll encounter someone who, out of ignorance or for reasons of personal gain, gratification, or self-aggrandizement, will attempt to do a number on you. That person might be a fellow member, a body master, a priest, a priestess, a member of the governing body, or even a high-degree officer. It doesn't matter what their degree or position. If you sincerely think they are using the Thelemic doctrine or order regulations or policy to suggest that you do anything to violate the prime directive, you can't be faulted if you conclude he or she is no longer functioning as a faithful executor of their position in the order, and it's the perfect time for you to smile and to say with the utmost fraternal love and goodwill, fuck you. Now, I'm not always suggesting that you actually use the words fuck you all the time, but I have to confess it's very satisfying when you can. But really, it's seldom wise to go off half-cocked and say fuck you first and ask questions later. Remember your etiquette, and that the key to executing the prime directive lies in the perfect balancing of the powers of the Horus brothers. I won't lie to you, we all know it. Some Thelemites are assholes. But that certainly doesn't mean that all assholes are Thelemites, nor does it follow that in order to act like a proper Thelemite, you must feel somehow obliged to behave constantly as a rude, arrogant, loudmouthed, bullheaded, dogmatic, book of the law thumping, Crowley quoting, unapologetic asshole. Ultimately, no one is responsible for your experiences except you. I'm going to repeat that. No one is responsible for your experiences except you. Rubbing people's noses in your narcissistic, chip-on-the-shoulder attitude announces to the world that you don't grasp this fundamental truth. No matter how smart or magically educated you may be, if you believe your life, your happiness, your enlightenment, your will somehow depends upon the actions and behaviors of another person or the leadership of an organization, then all I've got to say to you is, fuck you, asshole. Those of you who have attended my talk at last Noticon may recall that my life in the OTO has not always been blissful. I've said and heard fuck you a lot in the last 30 years, mostly in the wild and woolly early days. On more than one occasion, I've even, in essence, said fuck you to Grady. With nobility worthy of a true king, Grady was most of the time very gracious and showed amused respect for the sincerity of my position and my willingness to confront it. There were, naturally, other occasions when my fuck yous really got him steamed. And in retrospect, those were times when I probably should have remained silent. Fuck you or silence. Silence or fuck you. The decision can often be agonizing. And knee-jerk decisions can be disastrous. Am I saying fuck you because my feelings are hurt? And am I just lashing out? Am I remaining silent because I hate confrontation or I'm downright frightened? Over the years, I've learned to combine the two. There are times when a good-natured fuck you is the very best way to remain silent. Other times, you can say a very loud fuck you simply by keeping your mouth shut. And there were other little formalities and fun things about the speech that took up another couple minutes or so, but that's where I think it's appropriate we stop, if it was appropriate at all. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed eavesdropping on an OTO National Convention speech, and that you'll be here tomorrow. So until then, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.